Okay, so up next we have Aditya. So Aditya leads foundational integrity for Llama models at Meta. He has driven multiple LLM applications to improve Facebook's recommendation and ranking systems. Aditya, good morning.
Hey, hi Jane. Great to see you. I'll share my screen.
Yes, please go for it.
Uh, Entire screen should be good. Okay, there you go. Okay. Can you guys see it now?
Yep, good to go.
Great, awesome. Okay, let's get started. For next 15 minutes, we're going to talk about like what is importance and what are the different ways and dimensions of evaluating AI agents. Um, And first, before we go into that thing, like first, like let's go into the evolution. Like earlier, we had like only LLM with prompt. Then we had a static workflow where we have a fixed defined if else and different kind of conditions. Then comes like the AI agent, more powerful with tool, memory, reasoning capabilities, and a lot of other things, and using multiple LLMs to get a job done. And then from multi-agent now, from single agent now, we are moving to multi-agent system where we have a cluster and these like orchestrated agents which are working together for a particular goal. So in an agentic architecture, we have different components. On the top side, we have different types of memory, long and the short term. On the left side, we have tool, which is now kind of like a lot of development is happening in this field. MCP is basically like evolved and is more like a standardization protocol right now, and different capabilities of agent with respect to the planning and action. So moving from a single agent to multi-agent system, there are different topologies or architecture how these agents are kind of like coordinated or orchestrated together. This is decentralized one is where each agent is talking to each other. They have all the knowledge. They can pass information, make decisions, and everything. In the centralized domain, there is one central agent which is responsible for passing message parsing, figuring out like the policy violations and other different kind of aspects related to the system, and the agents are not aware of each other. They are just talking to each, and then we have different hybrid approaches based on these. So now let's come to the evaluation. Why do we need evaluation in the first place? First thing, I mean, we all have been seeing this thing trend that like whenever the new model comes up from any of the companies, the first they'll do is to evaluate and understand the benchmarking performance with respect to the standard benchmarks we have. MMLU, HelloSwag, Truthful QA, there are like hundreds of them right now. So that's one thing. First, you want to understand how the performance is happening with respect to the outside world. Second is the insights and improvement. Like if your evaluation is not doing well on a particular topic, let's suppose on a coding, reasoning thing, that means either you need to improve your data set, like fine tuning methodology, or you want to have like a little bit of more like um, reinforcement learning based, like more better labeling on that particular aspect. So it allows you to actually improve your model. That's where the evaluation is very important. Third thing is a goal, like whatever is the North Star metrics or the goal your organization have set, or whatever is the end goal we have for the user, may it be like a air ticket, airline agent, or a healthcare agent or something. To understand and evaluate on that goal, it's really important to have that a complete method and fundamental architecture, and where you can actually evaluate your agents. And the last, not the least, is the safety and reliability. You want to make sure your agent, whenever it is deployed, it is safe, deployed in a very safe and a reliable manner. There is no like a PR issue or anything that happens, or a very bad user like a feedback would come later. So you would want to make sure you are doing all your homework properly before even deploying. When it comes to evaluation dimension, I mean, I came up with like the sixth one, but I think there could be many different ways to look at it. The first one is like how well the agent can accomplish a particular task. The second one would be to understand how accurate it is and how factually correct it is, where what we have the RAG and the grounding. Third is safety and the responsibility, where we say that like the input output prompt, how safe they are, like how well like the gaming prompt can be like, or the inputs can be actually like put in the right manner, and how responsibly it is doing following a particular guidelines. Robustness and reliability, whenever the failure happen, whenever there is a very like a weird kind of prompt, or whenever there is a lot more request that might comes in of different prompt length, like how does that's your entire system works. System efficiency, it looks into like what is the cost of the tool, like LLM input
Hey
output
Aditya,
token.
we lost your screen right there.
Uh, you lost it? Okay.
Yeah. I
Hold
think
on, let
so.
me
You were
do that.
sharing and then and you're
And
back. Wonderful.
okay, cool. Great.
On one of my favorite slide, by the way. I like
Oh,
it.
okay,
I already
cool.
took a screenshot. I know this is recorded, but
All good.
go for it.
And the last one is the reasoning and the planning quality, which is really hard to do because you cannot properly do the reasoning on these. You cannot properly evaluate reasoning just like using LLM as a judge or even human, but this is an ongoing research topic. So let's say what are the key methods on which we are talking. We talked about dimension corresponding to that. Like there are some methods. One is outcome metrics. You look into the success rate, output quality, and like generate rubrics based on that. Second would be to understand like the reasoning process of the LLMs and the agents, like what is the chain of thought and the reasoning traces happening. Third would be to understand the tool usage, like how much of the tool, which tools are used, whether it's the right one, wrong one, what is the success rate of the tool. And then fourth one is more like a benchmarking, which is the standard evaluation. You are testing in an existing benchmark. A human loop, super important, which we're going to talk about in almost all the aspects, is like uh, how well to assess the quality, how well like you are able to integrate the system and have the human give the visibility and evaluate it based on that. And the last would be the resource usage. You want to understand like CPU, GPU usage, your memory, API cost, latency, everything out there. So let's jump into the first one, which is task success. Here we are looking into four main aspects. Like one is how well the entire task is completed, how correct it is, how relevant it is to the query, and how well it is able to either to the constant constructs that has been put to the agent, maybe like the policy or something not to do and those kind. When it comes to evaluation method, what we are looking at is either like a simple binary pass and fail, which is applicable in some cases when you're doing classification or those kind of thing, whether it's a positive, negative sentiment. But you can evolve it more into the like a little bit of more like regression or maybe multi-class or just like a reasoning based. Task completion rate, how well, like what is the percentage of tasks which are completed, and then human evaluation is constant throughout, like in all the six dimension that we are going to talk about. And automated check, that means you have the scripts and like standard APIs, input output, and then you are just validating either through like a fixed output format or like through LLM and just doing a similarity on that. When it comes to accuracy and factuality, we're talking about the factual correctness, how well it is able to handle the hallucination, what is the source of grounding, and how fresh the content is. So that means if you're talking something which is happening, evolving every hour, is it providing the information from this hour or last day or last hour? So evaluation method would be the fact checking. It could be the manual or the automated one. Hallucination rate is also like what is the frequency or how confidently the model can like say that something false, but it is providing it with a confidence and a decent perplexity score and all. Citation accuracy, this is something you can validate easily. Like for particular prompts, you know that these are the government websites or educational websites that need to be there in your RAG system. So you can say that, okay, if the RAG is not able to retrieve these like important sources for these predefined queries, that means there is something wrong about with your system. And human judgment is basically we have the human in loop, which actually understand like look into the queries, see what is the accuracy of that, and like how much of the groundedness has happened in that particular case, and if it is deviating from that, if there is any hallucination and like something which is not factually correct or misinformation. Safety and responsibility is super important thing. Here we are looking into aspects of like bias mitigation, whether your agentic system or LLM is ethically compliant. Is it protecting the PII information, any kind of private information from the users, like username, address, like phone numbers, and other thing? And whether it is refraining from any of the toxic or harmful, illegal kind of content. So coming to the evaluation, we have a standard safety benchmark that you can first test. That means your model outside of your organization of the use case, it is able to meet certain standards, like certain benchmark, and it is doing fairly well on that. Red teaming, super duper important, like especially in terms of like safety and responsibility, where you are having an internal team or outsourcing your like finding outsourcing your job of like red teaming to the other one. But here we are trying like kind of coming with the data set which is all the adversarial like prompts and attempts through which your system can be gamed, and it is trying to check whether those things are very well validated and how well the model or the agent is doing for that particular specific prompt. And then you can have a content classifier. This is like a board based model or like a standard discriminative classifier, which is trying to understand whether the prompt input output or any function input output call, if there is any toxicity, bias, or anything happening in that particular thing. Coming to the human review, this is again, even though you are using classifier red teaming and like benchmarking, you still want to have your specific data set and make sure that humans are looped in and they are checking the accuracy, performance, ethical guidance, and safety guidance of your agent. Robustness and reliability, this is very standard from a typical distributed system, where the key aspect that we are trying to shoot here would be like the what is the error recovery rate, how well the agentic system can actually address the adversarial attack, how consistent input and output are, like because this is non-deterministic system, you might find some variation, and how well it can handle the edge cases. So in the evaluation method, like what we can do is one is a perturbation based, where you are actually making some noise, making the prompt good and better, and seeing how your output is like coming up and down. Adversarial testing would be like having a prompt injection, jailbreaking, and those kind of methods to make sure your system is robust. Stress testing, make sure like your system is like can scale well, do a proper load balancing. Here it is different from typical standard distributed system because here we are talking about different prompt are all different length, different complexity. So that means your backend functioning and your workflow would be very different from prompt to prompt. So it would be entirely different. It's not like in the standard API, you have like standard input output format, like doesn't matter, like the load and everything remains same. And the failure rate, which you want to check on that. When it comes to efficiency, we are talking about like latency. What is the end-to-end latency? What is the latency of each agent's LLM, tool, and different kind of like APIs, function call, and everything. What is the token consumption you have? This is one of the highest bandwidth or in a way of your money resources that would cost in any of the agentic deployment. From the computational cost point of view, you're looking into CPU, GPU, memory usage, what is the API call usage that happens, and a number of interaction and reasoning step which are there, and is that actually needed? Some of the evaluation method would be just standard, like a wall clock. What is the millisecond latency happening? Token counters for like, let's suppose if you're using some n number of LLM, what is the token cost for each, and what is the token counter for that, so that you can get the estimated cost just from LLM APIs, and similar to that, you can apply it to other function calls or MCP, another one. For the API call logs, you log it. You have a different profiler, like wherever at a at a system layer, where you are getting all the resources of your machines and everything, and checking if it is deployed in the right manner and if there is a way to optimize it any further. Reasoning quality is super hard, but like extremely important, and the like ongoing research topic, where we are talking about like how logically sound your output is, how well your agentic system is able to decompose the problem, what is the accuracy of each of the intermediate steps we have, how well agent can actually explain and give a clear explanation of like why the output is done or why the reasoning is done in the way it is. The evaluation method will be standard reasoning benchmark, and it's really hard to create your internal benchmark. But if you can, I think that's probably one of the best sources to understand how well your agent is reasoning. Um, Human evaluation is a little bit hard in this case because there is no standard format or like it's very subjective from person to person. So one person like might find like a very complex thing, like complex response from LLM to be very good. Another might find it too complicated. So that's where it would not be a standard way to evaluate. And then similar to that, like there are other plan-based evaluation and like chain of thought one. So, coming to the challenges in evaluation, I think the first thing is the scalability, because human cost is pretty hard and it's not really easy to have the standardized benchmark or kind of like internal to your agentic system. And also, like there is always like some inconsistency that you would see within like human evaluation, which we okay talked about. Scalability and standardization. Explainability is another one where we know that LLMs are still black box. We do not know what is happening inside them, but that is something which is are really hard to understand. There is a lot of research work recently done by Anthropic and other companies in this domain, but it would be, I think we are at a years ahead. Like, I mean, it would take a lot of more time for us to get to the level where we fully explain and understand what is going on in LLM. Abstract content, concept like reasoning, creativity is, of course, really hard to evaluate, reason, understand, have a standard benchmark. Reproducibility, where it's because of the non-deterministic nature, like it's not really hard, easy to replicate the same thing sometime. And because your data is evolving, you would want to make sure that your evaluation platform and your data set, everything is evolving to make sure there is a data drift and everything on that side. So, okay, I'm almost at time. Okay, great. I did it in 15 minutes.
Good job.